A biblical perspective on life, culture and current events. This is 2020 on Vision.
A conversation we're about to get into today, and you might want to join into the conversation. Shortly we'll open our talkback lines for your opportunity to do that. And we're going to be talking about something particularly important, particularly if the alternative seems to be taking over. We're going to be talking about acts of human kindness. There's so much negativity and pain and suffering that's broadcast in all forms of media today that it would be easy for us to think the world's becoming darker and darker and that human kindness is slowly fading away. But what about love and kindness through ordinary Christian believers like you and me? And what happens when acts of love and kindness are multiplied, perhaps through every believer, or let's just say for every listener to our conversation today? Well, our special guests decided to capture and produce a TV series featuring stories of love and kindness that occur among ordinary people. And what they want to remind us is that faith, love and hope are still shining like a beacon of light in today's world. Angela Williams and Dave Matthews are co-hosts of a new TV show called Humankind TV. Angela, a special welcome to you.
Thank you. It's good to be here.
And Dave, a special welcome along to you.
Thank you, Neil. Thank you. There we go.
I got you switched on.
That's all good.
Hey, let me come to you, Angela, first. Acts of kindness, of love. Sometimes those are little thoughts that we have and then we dismiss them quickly because we know that it's sometimes dog eat dog out there. And when in a day and age like this, kindness is not as apparent as we'd like to see it. What are your perspectives here? Is there a lack of kindness that you're inspired to do this new TV series?
Well, I think you touched on something there. Sometimes we get those responses like we want to be kind, but then we are fearful of how is it going to be received? What is the response I'm going to get? So we put those barriers in place to prevent us from doing that. But humankind is innately kind, and we're seeing that all over the country. In this show, we're showcasing that it is part of our human nature to be kind, and we want to be kind, and we feel good when we are being kind. And so a part of what we're doing is to try and help people overcome those barriers, some of those fears and insecurities that stop us from doing that, and seeing that actually we can create ripples of change when we do that.
Dave, is kindness something that's intentional? Are some people naturally kind, do you think? Just put you in the deep end here,
I think everyone's naturally kind, to be honest. It's about, we often hear those voices inside of us that, to do something kind, whether you're at a petrol station, you're being told inside of yourself to go and pay for the person in front of you, or even at home, you see your spouse needs a little bit of kindness. And I think we hear those voices inside of ourselves, but we often don't react to them. We don't action them out. And I think what we tried to highlight through this show was not only hearing that voice, but doing something practically about it. So yes, we are trying to restore your faith in the kindness of humanity, because we actually believe that humanity has kindness at the core of us. It's just about listening to that voice and then doing something about it.
I guess, so intentionally, we do have to have those things come to the fore. You're saying that, there's a kindness in everyone, and I guess even bad people can do kind things. Angela, the Bible would say, that the human heart is deceitful and desperately wicked, and somehow or other kindness has to be nurtured to come to the fore. What are your thoughts here?
Well, the Bible says it's by far better to give than to receive, and so I think our society has created an environment where it's where we're very self-focused, and we've created a very selfish society where we're looking inwards. But the Bible teaches us to look outwards, to help our neighbour, to go the extra mile, and this is in our makeup and in our core of who we are. And when we are engaging in those things, we thrive physically, and there's a lot of research that has gone into this, just even in the physical impact that kindness has on us, that it boosts our mood, it will lift depression and anxiety, it enables us to bond and connect with people in a better way. Our society needs this right now, because we need to stop focusing on ourselves and actually look at how we can engage with the people around us, be kinder towards the people around us, and sort of lift our eyes to be aware of our environment a little bit more. And maybe that will lift us out of some of the darker times or some of those moods that we can have, or, you know, thinking that the world is an unkind place and feeling very depressed about that. So, yeah, I think we've got to look forward and look up and see how we can engage with our community.
Interesting when we talk about self and selfishness, because some might say in a golden age gone by, when most kids went through Sunday school and learned things like a golden rule,
Yes.
you know, do unto others as you would have them do unto you.
Yep.
If you lose that, if you see that diminish, then selfishness is on the rise, because those sorts of foundations that we have in our Christian understanding, they actually are about selflessness. So selfishness, the rise of social media. I mean, selfishness is everywhere, isn't it?
Spot on. And I think you bring up social media, which is just, it fosters an environment of narcissism, really. Like, you get to block people you don't like, anyone else's opinion, you just shut them out and create this perfect little bubble for yourself, and you're surrounded by this awesome little world of an echo chamber of your own opinions. And so the world that we're in at the moment is it creates a sense of I'm important. And kindness is the opposite of that, is turning the spotlight away from yourself and shining it to other people and saying you're important. And showing that kindness through in yourself and to other people is really important.
And Angela, what you guys are trying to do is start a whole kindness movement.
Yes, we are.
So this is not just about a few people getting inspired by a nice story or two. The motive here is something much bigger. What about a kindness movement?
Absolutely. Well, we want kinder societies, don't we? We want people to be actively kind in their community, because it has ripple effects. And a lot of research has gone into this. When you're kind to someone else, they are, I think it's something like 78% more likely to pay that forward. And so it creates this ripple effect that will our whole society will benefit from that. And so, but it starts with each of us looking at how can we be kinder to the people around us, so that we are actively doing that.
Andrew's also saying earlier that another stat, she said that being kind makes you age slower.
Right, okay.
So, you know, and that's an
It's
important...
actually twice as slow.
Twice as slow as age, right.
So, yeah.
You know what? I mean, we're early in the conversation. It might even spark some thoughts from listeners, but those sorts of things capture imaginations. If you are kind, you'll age slower. There might even be all sorts of other dimensions there. If you are kind, you'll attract some level of favour and even wealth. I mean, there's got to be a big upside to kindness.
Well, yeah, I mean, all your cortisol levels lower, stress hormones, everything. Like, you are physically a lot healthier when you're being kind.
Should we be thinking, how do I feel when someone does something kind for me? And that's where that ripple effect, I guess, comes, because then if I'm kind to someone else, it might have that same effect. Do you sort of delve into some of these things?
Yeah, well, I mean, I think we all know what it's like when someone does an act of kindness towards us, because it's unexpected, which shows that we don't expect kindness in our world, that we have lost faith that humankind can be kind. And so when those things happen, it's a surprise to us, but it makes us feel really seen and valued. And there's this divine moment that happens when someone is really kind to us. And it's a selfless act where they've got nothing in it for themselves. It's purely about the person that they're being kind to. And we all know how that feels. And so why wouldn't we want to replicate that in other people?
So, Dave, this first series, it's got 8 stories in it. Give us an overview of what people can expect when they're a part of this new project starting this Friday night.
Yeah, well, sometimes, you know, you think of a TV show about charities, it could be a bit boring, but this is the opposite of boring, because we're highlighting individuals within these charities and telling their stories to what got them involved, what made them want to be involved in the charity, and also the impact, the ripple impact, as Ange was talking about, that they're having within the little communities that they're having. And so we highlight a different charity every single episode and a different volunteer within that charity as well to, I guess, promote volunteerism and how important that is and how much that can actually give back to the volunteer, but also to the people they're being kind to as well.
Sometimes we don't think of charities being like that, but charities in themselves begin with people who are wanting to do acts of kindness.
Yeah.
And sometimes charities become like the organised acts of kindness of that individual.
Well, it's intentional, right?
It's intentional. So, but it starts with someone and it grows from there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, volunteers are the backbone of most charities, and it is all dependent on the kindness and generosity of others.
Okay, we're going to take a brief break, but I want to invite listeners to join into our conversation. You might have your own experience, perhaps of someone who has done a kindness for you. You can tell us how you felt, if it did have the ripple effect that you've been hearing about. If you would be a part of something that became a kindness movement, well, there is a brand new show. It's launching this Friday night on the Good app, and you can catch all the details at humankindtv.com.au. humankindtv.com.au. Our two special guests this hour, Angela Williams and Dave Matthews, are the co-hosts of Humankind TV, and no doubt they would love it if you made that appointment with them for this coming Friday and download the Good app and be able to access that. We're back with more in just a few moments.
Vision.
I believe the gospel of Jesus Christ is the only message that can bring true hope. Hi, I'm Pastor Matt Prater, and in partnership with Vision Christian Radio, I'd love to bring a ministry team to your community. My team will go to the outback or to the city to visit churches, schools and youth groups. We can also do street evangelism, seminars or special retreats. Plus, we'll bring Vision promo gear and copies of The Word for Today and V180 magazine to give away. Click contact at vision.org.au to register your interest.
Just another way Vision is helping you look to God daily. This is 2020 with Neil Johnson, helping you make sense of life, culture and current events from a biblical perspective.
Well, our
2020 on Vision Christian Radio.
Two special guests with us this hour, Angela Williams and Dave Matthews. They're co-hosts of Humankind TV. It's launching this Friday, and you need to download the Good app, G-O-O-D, the Good app, to be able to access this new program, which is designed to become the spark of a whole new movement. Why don't you try and do that? And you're welcome to call us. I want to open our talkback line on 1-800-316-316. If you'd like to join in our conversation as we talk about acts of kindness. Is this something that goes through your mind? Is it something that concerns you? Do you feel like you're living in a world that's darkness and deepening darkness rather than something that is a kindness that gives you hope for humanity? 1-800-316-316 to join in our conversation. Let's talk about some of the benefits of kindness. And Dave, I wonder whether you've, in all of the research you've done and the interviews that you've done, you've travelled extensively to make this whole new series. What have you observed about the things that are benefits, not just to the individual, but perhaps even for whole communities?
It's completely life-changing when you're kind. I met a professional restaurateurs from Melbourne that lost their restaurant and their marriage was about to end, and they didn't actually have much hope within their own life. They actually came up to the Sunshine Coast and volunteered at a charity called Sunshine Butterflies. And just by giving an act of kindness of volunteering a day a week, it completely restored their marriage. It completely restored their hope within themselves, and they were able to stop focusing on themselves. So being kind, to answer your question, is life-changing and could save your life, which it actually did with this two couple that we got to interview on the show.
And we mentioned volunteering in the first segment. You don't actually have to wake up and get out of bed and feel a a certain loving passion for volunteering. It's a bit more of a commitment, isn't it? But you're
it's like a
committed
marriage, right? You know, you have to get up every day and decide to do good by your partner, or you have to make a decision, or you have to be intentional about what you want to do and the positivity you want to put in the world. And I think that, you know, although, you know, you might not have that passion straight up, if you actually stop and take a breath and listen, and as Christians, I think that, you know, God is the ultimate kindness, right? He sent his son to die on the cross for us. That is the kindest thing that can happen. There's an old song that I think it's Sam Phillips or someone. It's a kindness that leads us to repentance, right? There's something incredible about being kind, and we have the ultimate example in the good book. But I think it's important that you have to. It doesn't naturally sometimes come out, but I think we have it inside us, and we have to listen to that, and then make action towards that.
the ultimate kindness, God sending his own son and him dying on the cross for us. Other stories that we might be thinking about as acts of kindness. The one that comes to mind for me is the story of the Good Samaritan. And these are stories, perhaps parables, but real stories too, that Jesus told about acts of kindness. And what happened to that guy who was beaten up and left beside the road? Well, he was the recipient of kindness. Any thoughts from you, Angela, on the sorts of things that we might be relating to? As, you know, if we're going to be like Christ, then we're going to be kind people.
Well, absolutely. I mean, I think the Good Samaritan is a really perfect example of that. And what I love about that story is that those two people, the Samaritan, and they should never have been communicating. They should never have been in the same space helping each other. And I think that's the beauty of kindness, that it actually can bring two opposing sides, two opposite worlds together. And, you know, I think it can bridge those divides between race, culture, because kindness is a universal language that we all speak and that we all respond to.
So is dancing, Ange, but we don't suggest you do any of that, please.
No, you might not want that from me.
We've seen Ange dance, and that's not kind to anyone.
Okay, all right. I'm not making any judgments here. She's not dancing in the studio.
No, not at the moment.
Give her 5 minutes, mate. Put on a good song.
All right, okay, we'll look out for that in the next song. Hey, taking calls on 1800 316 316. Let's take a call. Granville is in Rockingham in Western Australia. Hey, Granville, welcome.
Thank you very much. Good to see you back. Yeah, reason why I rang, I remember, I think I was about 9 years of age. I remember an act of kindness by my mother and dad to these people. I'll just explain. I lived in a small village, about probably 600 population, was born and brought up. And then I remember my parents, or particularly my mother, taking me to see these three people, Jack, Isabel and Clive. I can remember the names today. They were elderly, had never married, and therefore as they got older, their needs, like we all do, increased. And I used to go and visit them and would sit and talk to them. And then one of them, Jack, had a stroke. And my dad stepped in. He couldn't save himself, and he'd had a stroke. Therefore, my dad used to go down and give him a shave each day. I think he did that. And then later on in the piece, Clive and Isabel, they had to go into a nursing home. They couldn't manage at home. And my mother and dad would continue to visit them in the nursing home. And I used to go with them, I think. And it had a real profound impact on me because I thought, Mum and Dad are so kind.
Wonderful stuff, Granville. Let's get a thought or two from our guests, because having a stroke means you become very disabled often, depending on how significant that stroke is. Just the simple act of helping that stroke victim have a shave. I'll come to you on this, Rod, Dave.
I'm probably the perfect person to have this happen because my brother had a stroke in January this year. It was life-changing. He can now say 12 words, and it was completely life-changing for him, obviously, but also for our whole family. And I guess in those moments where you can show kindness, and I had him in hospital and was shaving his face for the first time. He's my older brother, and it was just a weird moment of kindness that, at the time you don't think it's kindness, but I guess when we talk about it, and, Granville's just highlighted how important that is, it can be life-changing for not only yourself, doing those things, for the person receiving it, but also the people seeing it happen. The nurses and the doctors around going, oh, there's people who care about other people at the very, very meta of this whole thing, it's that humans care about other humans and other humans have worth.
And, while we're talking about older people, caring for people...
Oh, don't go to Angela after you talk about older people. No. Oh, gosh.
Hey, I'm aging twice as slow over here.
No, look, you might have heard, as I have heard over many years, of people who are aging and they get into a nursing home. And people who work in nursing homes will tell you that there are some people who are wonderful beneficiaries of the kindness of their families or someone from their local church, but there are others who are completely ignored and have no support at all. And no visitors. Loneliness is one of those things that's very challenging. Any thoughts here? Because, we've got an ageing population. I'll come to you, Angela, on this. Yeah. But you know what? There is certainly need, particularly as we are all getting older.
Well, absolutely. And you hear that. It's quite a tragic statistic, isn't it, of older people feeling very lonely and isolated. And I think that's the responsibility then of family members, is to keep them at the forefront of our mind and making sure we're making those visits. I think the challenge in society is that kindness is an ongoing thing. It doesn't just end at one simple act. And I think when someone has a long-term issue that maybe you're a carer or something, and you're continually doing those things each day, your tolerance level can become a bit lower and maybe your engagement is less and less. And I think that's where then kindness, being intentional about kindness, really kicks in, is, when maybe you're not seeing results or things aren't changing and you're having to do it day in, day out, that it becomes challenging for us. But I think we benefit when we continue to do that.
Still got Granville on the phone. Hey, Granville, as you're remembering this event, just a shave being something very simple, but clearly you can remember all the names of the people involved. So this kindness is something that stayed with you through your lifetime.
Yes, and that's really helped me as a boy growing up. And then I look back and think how blessed I'd been in having such a wonderful mum and dad that showed all that kindness, not just to me and my brother Stuart, but to all people in the community. And to thank God for, I think it all emanates from Christ anyway, the kindness anyway. Perhaps it's in us and we can help to bring it out in us and to other people. And even being kind to pets, we're brought up with pets, for children, that I think helps them have kindness towards people if they're kind towards pets. That's another good thing as well.
That's true. All right, people and pets. Granville, thank you so much for your call. Our talkback line is open on 1-800-316-316. Let's take another call. Jane is in Cairns in North Queensland. Hey, Jane, welcome.
Hello. Good morning. I feel very passionately about kindness. I think it's incredibly powerful and really needed in this day and age. And I think all people have that capacity because we're made in the image and likeness of God. And it says, doesn't it, God's kindness leads us to repentance. And for me, as a nurse, I work in a wonderful little private clinic called Earworks, and we do ear microsuctioning. Now, because it's private and we can't get Medicare rebates and things, it does cost, it's $115 for a pensioner. And some people that come, they are genuinely in need and they really need that service. And I'm incredibly blessed in that my bosses, whilst they don't have a Christian faith, have a very strong commitment to kindness. So when we come across somebody in genuine need, they will often say, just give them that appointment free of charge. And just to be able to do that in this day and age, I've seen how much it really touches and matters to people who are genuinely doing it incredibly tough.
Wonderful insight, Jane. Let me come to Angela here, because you don't have to be Christian to be kind. We're hearing a wonderful couple and their generosity, but they're not Christians. How much more the Christian believer who is inspired by the relationship we have with God and all of those things we were talking about earlier, to be kind and to do deliberate acts of kindness.
Yeah, well, you've hit the nail on the head there. It's in our human nature to be kind. So, this isn't isolated to just Christians. there's a lot of people throughout the world that know God and don't know God that are being kind because it's part of our nature to do that.
But God knows them.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
That's cool. And has instilled in like a sense of kindness in everybody.
Yeah, I mean, and we're seeing it all across the country. So that's why this show really isn't just about trying to aim at a Christian market, because kindness is a universal language, as I've said. You know, it impacts all of us in some way.
And the sort of program that you'd easily be able to recommend to someone who was not a churchgoer. Do you tell stories of people who have got that kindness, but they're not necessarily inspired by faith?
We look at the volunteers within a charity and we tell the story from the volunteers' perspective, not necessarily from the people that are accessing that service or who they're showing kindness to. That's featured very little because we're looking at the volunteer. Why are they being kind? What difference is it making to them? What keeps them coming back? You know, they're the beautiful things about the human nature.
Volunteers are inspired by their kindness. 1-800-316-316. Thank you so much to Jane in Cairns.
And nurses are a great example of kindness, right? Their whole job is based around kindness.
That's right. Those sorts of things might even inspire our career choices.
Yeah.
Let's squeeze another call in before news. Hazel is in Perth. Hey, Hazel, welcome.
Oh, hello, Neil. Yes, I've had such a lot of kindness shown to me by complete strangers. A taxi dropped me off at the wrong place, and then a lady took me and drove me for a long, long way to the right place. And I don't know whether she was a believer or not. I didn't ask, but I've had nothing but kindness shown to me.
Oh, Hazel,
and,
that is beautiful. I've got to get a quick comment because it's almost news time. Angela, thoughts here for Hazel?
Well, it's significantly impacting, isn't it, when a simple act of kindness, like that's made a big difference to Hazel's life. And I think we can all feel that when something like that's happened, when someone's gone out of their way for us and done something that is meaningful to us.
Hazel, and I just note here, I've got a little note here, you're 93 years old. Is that the case?
That's right, yes.
Well, thank you so much for calling in and just mentioning your little story. But let me come back to this concept of a movement, a kindness movement. Angela, there's lots of dimensions. We'll only scratch the surface of these this morning, but there are more dimensions, more things to follow that really are going to support people in becoming part of a movement.
Yeah, absolutely. So storytelling is a really important part of that. And people that are kind in the community, they generally don't like to tell their own story. So that's what we're doing. We're telling their stories on their behalf because stories inspire other people to act. So we want people's stories, people that are watching the show, create your own acts of kindness and tell us about it. And this will create a momentum of those stories getting out there, inspiring other people to do acts of kindness. So, yeah.
Okay, so get ready because those acts of kindness you're thinking of right now may well get a bigger boost in being a part of those things that are happening, and particularly you've got a social media presence. And Dave, if I come to you on this, so if someone has a story...
come to the young guy about the social media. I think I've got it written down.
All right, so, but you know, if someone's got a story of kindness...
Yes.
They're hearing what we're talking about ripple effects and all of those sorts of things. And how could the story that I'm telling, which I tell occasionally at a family gathering, how could that get bigger than we could ever imagine? This is an opportunity for people to be able to access your social media presence to be able to get those stories out.
Yeah, we would love you to become an advocate of kindness. That's the idea behind the show. Kindness isn't something you just watch. We want you to do something with that kindness. And so, there's three ways to do that: is watch, review the show, of course, and share the show. Create your own stories of kindness. Tell us about it. Tag us through our socials, Humankind TV, and of course, support, volunteer, and donate, not to the show, but to the charities that mean something to you. It's about encouraging people to get outside of themselves and look for ways to be kind to everybody in their world.
We are taking calls, 1-800-316-316. Let's take another call. William is in Melbourne. Hello, William. Welcome.
Hello, guys. How are you going?
Hey,
Doing
mate.
good. What are your thoughts, William?
Well, look, I actually sort of did full-time volunteer youth work when I was 21, so that's going on 33 years ago.
Okay.
That's amazing, mate.
So, all right, full-time volunteer youth work and people who have a passion for seeing good values passed on to a next generation. What was your motivation? Was it a Christian motivation? How did that motivate you?
It was. It's still with a company that exists, which is Fusion Australia.
Fusion Australia, and some people will remember Mal Garvin, who was the founder of the Fusion organisation. Yep. What about your connections there?
Okay, well, I guess it was so long ago, but I really felt the call upon my life because I was only 2 years old as a believer when I actually entered that particular job. But now that I work in community aged care, I believe that's my calling now, to be working with the elderly. And it's just beautiful to be able to know the difference that I've been able to make in these people's lives during my time. I mean, I may not see results, but I have, and it's just such a rewarding thing to see how people are changed by it.
William,
awesome
you
work.
have raised something so significant here. You might not appreciate it so much, but it's a little bit like catch them while they're young, teach them to volunteer and to be kind, and that stays with you for a whole lifetime. Dave, what are your thoughts here for William?
Oh, well, we one of the charities that we highlighted on the show, which is a part of the first season of Humankind TV, was Kids Hope. And they are all about having a mentor meet a child for an hour each week. And we actually, on the show, got to meet an adult who was influenced by a mentor when she was in primary school. And she was in a really deep, dark space when she was in primary school. But just an hour a week over a couple of years completely changed the trajectory of her life. And we are able to see this incredibly awesome, beautiful woman that had this amazing experience by someone just being kind for an hour a week. And so this has been completely life-changing.
Let's come back to our caller here for a moment. William, as you reflect on now a lifetime of serving and understanding volunteerism, clearly there's something that happens within you that changes when you actually do display these acts of kindness. You must feel good about that because we don't keep doing what we don't feel good about. What was your experience, William?
Well, I guess I only did that particular role for 12 months because I didn't feel comfortable sending out a support effort. I was living off my own savings, but I knew that I was doing the right thing at the right time. And at one stage when I actually came home for a bit of respite, my dear late father asked me the question, how much money have you got left in the bank? And I'm like, it's not your concern, it's my business. And he was getting rather angry, it's less than $100, And I showed him my FPOS receipt, and I had, less than $10 in the bank. But I said, look, God will provide. And he just, lost it. But
God did provide?
He did, yes. But I'll tell you a quick story if that's okay.
A very quick one, yep.
Nellie Truelove, who worked for the Salvation Army back in the late 1890s, she felt the call upon her life to work over in America. And, she volunteered her time, but her surname being Truelove, what an amazing surname to try and live up to.
That's right. Yes, that's true. Absolutely true. True love. Hey, William, I want to thank you so much for your call. Thanks for that great contribution. And I'll come back to Angela here for a few moments. There's all sorts of dimensions to you, Angela, and lots of achievements and things that you've done, and there's things that have shaped your life, which may be different for a lot of people, but volunteerism usually includes sacrifice.
Yeah.
This is one of those things that our caller raised. There's volunteerism, and that really means sacrifice. And for that caller, William, he was sacrificing things. God did provide for him, but there was a lot of sacrifice involved, and people who were in, his mentors, his father, I think it was, was concerned about how much he had in the bank.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts here around the connection of those two?
Well, I think sometimes people volunteer, it's a step of faith for them. And, maybe it's a training ground for them, that God's doing something in their heart, that, are you prepared to put God first? And sometimes he asks and requires us to sacrifice these things. But William pulled up something there that I think is really important. He said he doesn't know the fruit of that. And I think that's the beautiful thing about authentic kindness. It is a selfless act where we sow a seed into someone else's life, and we may never see the fruit of that.
Yeah.
We may never know what the result of that is, but we've done it selflessly, and, and a commendment to William for doing that and sacrificing so much. I think it means so much to us when we do it sacrificially.
And come to you, Dave, when you've spoken to people for this 8 programs in the first series launching on Friday night, the sorts of volunteers you spoke to, were they the sort of people who really couldn't afford to make that sacrifice, but they were doing it anyway? Or were they coming from privileged backgrounds where they were saying, well, I'm giving back to our community? What sort of people did you come across in those volunteers, if we're connecting those two, volunteerism and sacrifice?
What we learnt, the happiest people are those that give more, not have more, right? And we found that these people are willing to give whatever they have and do whatever they could to be kind to someone else, no matter their own circumstance. And so we notice just incredible people that have been through some pretty tough stuff, themselves, but they're just not focused at all. They're the last ones to tell you that they're being kind, and that's what we found with them.
Kindness leads to community. So, kindness can sometimes be the open door to a conversation. Conversation can lead us to connect with one another. And through that connection, we can find community. And it doesn't matter from what end of society you're from. We all need community, and kindness can be the open door towards that.
I can't remember any chapter and verse here, but there is a biblical principle, I think, that we could actually ascribe to, that if we're hoarding for ourselves, there's a recipe there for misery. But to be generous is to open the door for a level of happiness that we might never have been able to consider. There is something special that happens in the human heart when we're actually expressing that kindness, and it happens to do with whether we feel bad or feel good.
Yeah, absolutely. I think a part of the 12-step program, so people in recovery, part of that is actually about how you're giving back to society. So, it's even part of our recovery process. People that are maybe coming out of difficult situations or coming out of some sort of addictions, it is part of our healing process as human nature.
Part of the process, a healing process. And, there is a point where you might come to a salvation experience, but then learning to be a Christian, to be Christ-like, is going to involve this level of kindness. Now, Dave, you're wanting to actually have people become advocates for kindness.
Yeah,
so
absolutely.
This is not just a one-off, watch one of these programs, part of the series starts on Friday night, but you want to actually have people who become advocates for kindness in their community.
Can you look around at the media landscape at the moment and say that you're comfortable having your kids watch every single thing that's on TV or you hear on radio or different things? I'm not talking about vision, but there is absolute smut everywhere. And I've got 3 kids of my own. I'm absolutely sick and tired of seeing what's out there available for free for our kids to grow up and watch and be influenced by. I'm actually over it. I want a change. It's not good enough that we don't watch that stuff. It's so important that we actually start building some positive content like Vision is doing, creating more content, creating more positive stories, and also encouraging more kindness. It's not enough that we don't, stop doing those things. We need to do more. And so this is about being an advocate of kindness with the TV show. And I'm not trying to preach here, but this show is really important that people get behind and watch the show. They let us know what they think about the show. It's our pilot season, so not everything's perfect, just FYI. Yeah. We made a lot of mistakes in the show. Took us a long time to film, and we stuffed up a lot of lines. But we want people to get behind this show, not for the fact that we want this show to be popular, but we want kindness to be popular. We want you to be encouraged by it. Create your own acts of kindness. Tag us on social media. Let us know if there's someone awesome in your community that's doing some incredible acts of kindness. We want to hear about those people because we may have the opportunity to highlight them in the coming seasons as well.
So plenty more opportunities for more stories, for more seasons of this new program. But we're talking about advocates of kindness, a new kindness movement. I heard you say a little, I think, when we were having the news, Angela, there's something like there's 3 points that you want people to appreciate about being an advocate for kindness. What were they?
Yeah, well, the first one is obviously for us is to watch the show, share it with your friends, build a community around this, and then review the show. We really would like to hear your reviews, as Dave has already shared. We will read every single one of those because we want to know what was working for you, what didn't work for you.
Angel will review it and send me the highlights, to be honest.
So that's one way. And then the next way is on social medias, create your own story of kindness, share it with us, tag us on socials. And then the third, as Dave has already shared, is about charity, support charity. Anything that you donate through the show, it goes through charitable app. We've partnered with them and it goes direct to the charity itself. It doesn't come via us. So we're not raising money for ourselves. It really is to impact the charitable sector.
When I hear the word review and here you guys are saying, review what these programs are doing.
Yeah.
Tell us an honest critique. Well, the honest critique, the review, is really an opportunity for reflection, and people can do that reflection even now as listening to this conversation and hearing about a new kindness movement. But when you reflect and review, you're somehow or other putting yourself into the picture. And I guess this is something that you want people to do.
Yeah.
The engagement idea isn't just for the fun of engagement. The engagement becomes an opportunity for personal reflection.
Yeah, 100%. Well, Ange and I don't need to be any stars of this show. We want more people. If you're listening right now, we want you to be part of this project as much as we are. We don't need to. I've had 20 years of radio stuff. I've been on buses and billboards, and now I'm under a bus. Ange has had an incredible life as well. We don't need this, but we want to encourage everyone listening today and everyone who watches the show to be inspired to be kind. We want to restore your faith in the kindness of humanity. We want you to see that humans are kind. We want you to be kind. And I know this isn't another word like pivot that we had in COVID times. We want kindness to mean more than just the word. We want it to be an action.
Now, you guys have done some travelling.
Yes. Don't get into this.
Now, you might want to let us in on some of the places that you've been, some of the personalities that you've met, some of the characters that you've come across. Angela, what was it like for you doing some travelling? Where did you go?
Well, the first one that stands out to me is Dirranbandi. So that's like 8 hours west in Queensland. It was in the farming regions. It's the furthest west I've ever been. Obviously from my English accent, I haven't always lived in Australia. I've been here 13 years. So I haven't really seen the outback. So that just opened my eyes to a whole different way of life. And I saw Australian culture in a very different way. And they live so remotely out there. But the nature and character of people, of how that community bands together, they support one another and they all know each other, even though they're like an hour and a half away from their neighbours. It was such an amazing experience to see that in remote Australia, and I absolutely loved being there. I was a bit afraid that I might get bitten by a snake.
Okay.
It was fun watching Ange
hear your
in the
accent.
Outback. It was so much fun watching Ange in the Outback. Just long grass freaking her out every time.
However,
the flies.
The flies seem to be attracted more to you, Dave, to be fair.
That's because we're standing next to each other.
It's on my hairspray.
Hey, be kind. Be kind. No, Ange's hair, because it's very windy out there as well. One of the big behind the scenes is that we had to do so many retakes because Ange's hair kept on flying across her face.
Right.
But the other thing was that it kept on getting caught in her lipstick. So then it would fly back and then fly across her face again. She'd have some tiger stripes across her nose of lipstick.
All right.
You've had that happen before, haven't you, Neil?
These are the challenges. I mean, I've lived in Western Queensland, you might
Yes.
say the outback in some sense, Longreach. And
yeah.
I think it was one of the towns that you went to.
No, we didn't go to.
We didn't go to
Longreach, but I would have loved to. I love Longreach. Yeah, Longreach is a great.
Maybe season 2.
Oh, please, can we get to Longreach? Yes.
Yeah, but flies and the heat and the odd bit of wildlife. I mean, it's just par for the course. It's normal here in Australia, isn't it?
I took my family around Australia last year, and we actually had an incredible vision experience where we had a breakdown up the middle highway of Australia. We were past Alice Springs, and we broke down. I have no mechanical skills whatsoever, but I had my 3 kids in there, and I have it was crazy. It was very hot, 40 degrees. I didn't know what to do, so I said, all right, let's get in the caravan and pray about it, and we had a prayer. We puddled our car back to the last town, and it was a town called Tea Tree. And we didn't see this on the way through, but there was a service station in Tea Tree. They're probably listening right now. And God had provided us with that little service station because there was vision radio signs everywhere. And they had one bottle of coolant that was perfect for our car left on the shelf, on the bottom shelf there. And it was just an absolute godsend. So it was a bit of a kindness from Vision. So thank you.
And we'll say a special good morning to all the listeners in Tea Tree in the Northern Territory.
Thanks, guys.
Hey, time's short now. What's going to be featured in program number 1, the first program of the series? It's going to air on Friday this week on the Good app. Dave, come to Angela. What's in the first one, Angela?
Well, the first one we've got coming up is Sunshine Butterflies, and they help adults with disabilities. An amazing story from Leanne, the founder, who created this incredible facility. It's got farming. It's got a little farm on there. It's got a music school and a cooking school. And Dave was in the kitchen cooking up a storm, eating all their food.
A lot of eating.
It was a great episode. This was really made us all feel great to do this and just to watch how they're engaging with their community.
Well, that was Nick and Sarah who lost their restaurant during COVID, and where their marriage was about to end, and they had so much pain, but by giving a little bit of themselves and coming back and using their skills, showing a bit of kindness in that way, they were able to restore their marriage and restore their lives. And now Nick is actually employed by that charity full time. Now he could be he's a Michelin star restaurateur, like he's a top of his game, but it completely saved their lives by just being a little bit kind.
Okay, so this Friday, do we know what time, or is it something
7:30, I think.
Is it?
Yeah, if you're watching on Foxtel.
Is there daylight savings time in that? I don't know. I don't know.
All right, so there's five time zones across Australia.
Okay,
so
great.
We're talking
Let's go Queensland time.
Eastern Standard Queensland time, 7:30 this Friday night.
Great.
So it's going to be 8:30 for southern states, and it's going to be 2 hours behind in the west. And where you are in the middle of Australia, you have to work out whether you're an hour or a half hour before or after. So, this is how you can access it. Simply download the Good TV app, which you'll be able to get in your app store, any device, and download that app, and you'll be able to access that program for this Friday night. Now, to find out details about it, and keep in mind, this is not just about your entertainment. This is about a new movement, a kindness movement, and how you can be a part of that, how you can become an advocate for kindness. Go to humankindtv.com.au, humankindtv.com.au. Angela Williams and Dave Matthews are co-hosts of Humankind TV. The first series has 8 episodes. The first one is this Friday night. Angela and Dave, thank you so much for taking some time to share your thoughts and your hearts with us today on 2020.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to be here. Thanks for having us, Neil.
Thanks, Neil.
Thanks for taking time to listen to this audio on demand from Vision Christian Media. To find out more about us, go to vision.org.au.